What is going on, everyone? My name is Will from Ghosthack, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about how I would kind of design an original chord progression and a strong melody to go on top of it. I'm going to be making a progression and a melody in this video from scratch so you can see the process. Now, there are obviously lots of different kinds of chords and melodies you can have. They can be simple, complex, dark, bright, uplifting, kind of down tempo. They can be energetic. They can be very mellow and soft. There's so many different kinds. It's hard to make a video just about all of them. So I'm really not. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to see where my inspiration takes me in this video. I'm going to start out making some chords. I'm going to kind of fiddle around with harmonies, and I'm going to see what sort of, pokes my curiosity, what catches my interest, and then I'm going to shoot to just exploit that. And that's definitely how I would recommend you go about writing progressions of chords and melodies and stuff like that, is sort of let the music write itself. If you hear the music wanting to go one direction, push it that direction and keep it going. Help the music kind of lead you through instead of trying to force something exactly how you want it to be. It's not going to turn out nearly as good that way. You got to let the music do the work. And that may sound kind of a little surreal and, vague, but hopefully you'll kind of understand what I'm talking about as we're going through this video. So I just have a couple pianos here, and I'm going to use this first one to create a chord progression. And I don't exactly know what key I want to be in, but we can always figure that out later. I'm going to leave it at 140 for this one. And the first thing I want to do is just write 4 chords. I just want to fit a chord in each of these bars right here. And I guess we can just start by laying down any note. So G is a good place to start. And a good way to kind of start a chord progression, if you don't know what vibe you want it to have, is try to sort of set a bass line, or just some sort of just like lay down 4 notes and then position those 4 notes to kind of fit the way you want them to together. So you have like a miniature, like super basic melody, right? And then you can turn that super duper basic sort of melody that you made into chords, and then your chords will have kind of a pattern. So obviously this doesn't work. Well, it does, but it's major. I kind of want to do minor, but I'm going to find better places for these notes to go. And then I think what I want to do here is, after I have kind of just this basic sort of standard kind of progression, I want to duplicate that and then make a little bit of changes. So we have something a little interesting to go by there. Of course, these are all going to be turned into chords, so you won't really notice the octave change that much, but it is kind of just a good way to start out creating the bass. So now let's see what harmonies work with this. A quick thing to do if you want to just create easy chords is to bring these guys up a fifth. So that would be up 7 semitones. So let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you can hear that these kind of blend together generally nicely. And that would be a pretty simplistic way to kind of start out just making chords. But in order to make it a triad, to have like 3 chords in each one, I'm going to try to put one in the middle of each of these. And then we'll work with switching around kind of the octaves of some of the higher and lower parts to make it a little more even. So I'm just going to see which notes in the middle fit this. I'm not going crazy into music theory on this one, because I really don't want to make this a music theory video. I really just want to explain my process. And my process is not it doesn't involve a lot of music theory on my part. Once I'm done with the chord progression, I can analyze it and I can kind of see the theory behind what I actually did and what sounds good. But when I'm just clicking around and when I'm just trying to come up with something good, rarely am I going back to, any previous knowledge I have of music theory and taking from that. You don't have to know music theory in order to create good progressions. You just don't, because you have ears. You can hear them. So like, if I put this, then I'm going to get this chord. Although that's major, I kind of want to change this to minor. And I don't know that it's major and minor just by looking at the chord. Like a lot of people can. They can just glance at a chord, be like, oh yeah, that's major. Oh yeah, that's minor. But it's so much easier just to hear whether it's major or minor, because the difference is pretty, it's pretty, you know, significant in my opinion. I like dark sounding music, so I tend to go with minor chords. Put that one there. And then I can throw that guy there. So now we have this. Which this is a pretty dang simple, you know, kind of pattern that we have going here. And then if we sort of continue this. We have another kind of basic chord progression. And this is where I want to kind of play with the octaves. And what I'm feeling is once I created this chord progression, I feel like the main melody that I kind of had in mind with these bottom notes got kind of lost. It's sort of lost in the mix, and I don't really appreciate that. I kind of wanted to keep that. So what I think I want to do is I want to select all of the bottom notes here. I'm doing this by holding Control and Shift. Once I select all the bottom notes, I'm going to hold Shift and drag, and I'm going to just add an octave on top, right? So now it's a four noted chord on each of them. And now you can kind of hear the original melody that I came up with to play, you know, under these chords as the root notes. But you don't have to just change the octave of the roots either. You could take something like this, like take the A sharp, for example. It goes kind of high in my opinion. And I'd rather the chord be down a little bit lower, so I can hold Control and shift that down an octave, and you can see it beautifully lines up with that one. And now we have a chord that is still kind of lower, but it has that higher, you know, main note on top as well, so it sounds kind of nice. And it all sort of stays within the same register. So let's see if we can do this anywhere else as well. Let's see if we can't do it to this D sharp, but bring it up an octave. That sounds like a nice chord. But for some reason I kind of hear this chord separating off into two chords right here. So we have like two different ones. And going down to the D. Does that work with the other one though? Let's give this whole thing a listen. I think that kind of does work. It has kind of a catchy rhythm. And then the next thing we're going to do is create a bottom layer, which I think I just want to play G, which is the root note here. This chord progression is in G. And then create kind of a bottom pattern to play on this. Alright, so now we have our chord progression. If we go into this next Let's see, this next piano right here, you can see where we have the chord progression. And what we want to do is we just want to listen to this chord progression and just kind of think about what melody could go on top of it, maybe mess around with a couple of notes. A good way to do this is to go actually into the chord progression and change it and transpose it to either A if you're in minor keys or C if you're in major keys, because those scales contain all the white notes. So like we're in G right now. So let me transfer this to A. Right there, I just moved it up to A. And now we're playing all the white keys, which this makes it very easy to write melodies, especially if we don't have a MIDI keyboard in front of us, because there's our scale right there. You can already see we can just sort of tap around and find something interesting. Let's try to mine that vein. Let's make my lines a little bigger here. I don't like playing the same note as the chord. I really don't appreciate that too much. What if we went up one octave? It's a little high. I don't like it that much, but then again, we can transpose this thing all down once we're done, so this can be at a more comfortable range. So I think I'm going to just play it really high right now. I'm trying to find a note that sort of fits that last chord. That could sound better. Yeah, that sounds good. And let's try doing a little repeat here. Let's see, this would go right here. And then we got to make changes. And then actually we can just scrap this last part because I want to do something completely different, because these chords are completely different. I don't really like how that ending sounds. I like that beginning. See, this is an important part. This pattern that I sort of came up with in the beginning is catchy, and that sort of sticks in the listener's head. That da 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 kind of will follow them along, and that's kind of a repeating element that I like here. See, I like that little pattern, but it's a little boring. I gotta change it up. I gotta spice it up. And now it kind of runs adjacent to the chords. It's like it's not changing notes right as the chord changes. It's kind of like the progression is changing chords in the middle of a note. which always makes things kind of interesting. And now once we have this kind of thing down, now is when you can go in and edit both the chords and the melody together to try to get something that you actually want. Like for example, I don't like it going down to the G here. I want it to go to the A. But I can't do that because of the chord. So now I want to change this chord in order to work with that idea. So what I got to change is I got to make sure there's an A in here somewhere. So let's take, there's some B's. Let's change those to A's. And what about this G? Will that work? There's something in here that I don't like. Yeah, there it is. But now we have a lot of octaves going on here. We have 3 octaves of this A, so I'm going to delete this lower A and just stick with these. Actually, on second thought, maybe I'll keep the lower A and then delete the top A. What if I change these E's to F's? This is the thing where you really just got to experiment and see what you can come up with just by noodling around with these chords. It doesn't sound half bad. We got to make sure it's not the same as this one though. Yeah, that one isn't the same at all, so I think we should be good there. Now, I don't like how high the melody is. The melody is very high, so I do want to kind of transpose this down. Let's just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And let's take the chords and bring that down 5 as well. Let's highlight them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that's a good way to tell how strong your melody and chords kind of work together, is by changing the key and changing the octave, because it sort of resets your brain. It's like just a refreshing of your brain so you can hear it in a different context. So I'm actually going to scoot it 1 lower, which this will be D sharp minor, which I actually like D sharp. So that's pretty much our chords and our melody right there. The last thing I want to do with the melody is add just some interesting stuff. This is specifically stuff I would do to a piano or something else that's kind of plucky and has that and has a sort of transient at the beginning. I wouldn't do this with a lead quite as much, but I want to go in and add some fancy things. Like we can go in here and add another note. Let's see, that's too big. And do something like this, and then if we hold Alt, we can kind of slide this around. So we have that little drun, that kind of almost like a strumming of a piano. It's weird to say, it's like you're hitting 2 keys at once. And I want to do it here as well. So now if I were to continue it, I'd put it here. I put it right there, but I actually want to do it right here this time, because I think that could be kind of interesting. So let's take this. It's just about like that. You don't have to be exact. And there's something else we can do here. And I kind of want to, let's see, maybe go up like right here and then down right here. But I want to make it faster than that. Let's see if we can't go, let's see, 6 beat right here. Kind of like that. I definitely want to hear it here. I definitely want to hear that little strum. It's a little fast. Let's move it here. And these are just kind of humanization things, especially when you're using piano. I like to add these a good amount here and there just to make it sound like a real person's playing it versus just a robot. And then if you have a wish to make your chords interesting and kind of chop them up a little more, maybe make them sort of fit with the melody better, you know, by doing stuff like that. Then that is definitely an option. You can do that, or you can just leave it kind of 4 chords as such like this. All right, and that is essentially how I would go about sort of creating a chord progression and creating a melody. Obviously, you can get a lot more complex with the chords. You can get more creative with your melodies, you know, by adding little harmonies here and there, you know, adding different ones on top of one another. You can, you know, go in a wider range as well. I kind of stuck within this sort of octave right there. I went a little low in some parts, but it could be a lot more creative as well. This is just how I would go about writing something like this, but just like the ability to get from nothing to something. Like now we start out with nothing and now we have this base for a track, this sort of template. We have the melody and the chords and something to kind of follow. We have a vibe that we can work with now, and this could go a myriad of different places depending on what exactly I wanted to do with it. So that concludes this tutorial. I know some of this tutorial might have been a little bit vague and a little bit kind of out there. It wasn't as down to earth as some of my other tutorials are before. I just wanted to show you my process of how exactly I would do something like that. So if you like this, let us know down in the comments. Also, you know, leave a like. That's a pretty accurate way of us knowing whether you guys like our videos or not. So thank you guys so much for all the support, and I will see you in the next video. Happy producing.